Hey, Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from Democologist9715 and says, "Am I the asshole for my wedding date? I, 33 female, am getting married soon. On January 1st of this year. I announced to my mother and sister, 37 female, the date of my wedding, 11th of the 11th. I wanted a fall wedding, the leaves to be changing and to be cool outside. We chose November, with the holidays and whatnot. There were only 2 Saturdays in November that made sense. Fiancé chose the 11th, because it's indicative of our dating anniversary. So it was decided, 11th of the 11th. I announced the date to my family. My sister became upset. 1, her favorite band sings a song that's called 1111, so it has it tattooed on her. 2, she was engaged to some guy like 15 years ago. They didn't get married, but they were supposed to get married on the 11th of the 11th. I'd completely forgotten. 3, it's a week before her wedding anniversary. She was upset because 1111 is her thing, and it felt like a slap in the face that I would get married a week before she did years ago. My sis and I have a tumultuous relationship. The last fight we got into was at my birthday 2 years ago. We had discussed having a family dinner. I ended up inviting some friends. Fiancé wanted it to be special, and about 10 to 12 people ended up being there. Sister was pissed because if she had known there were going to be other people there, she wouldn't have come because she didn't feel well. I told her she was never obligated to come, and I didn't think I needed to make her aware of the guest list. Anyway, we ended up not talking for a while, but because my sister is stubborn, she has never apologized, doesn't take blame, I eventually just let it go to appease my mother. So when I found out she was pissed about the date I chose for my wedding, I wasn't having it. I worked really hard the last several years to establish boundaries with family and friends and to not be steamrolled. I was hurt my sister made my wedding about her. She told me that I took her thing, and as a result, she wasn't going to be in the country for my wedding. She booked the trip. It's now been 10 months. Her and I have limited interaction. My mum says to start the conversation with my sister and to let go because we all know how your sister can be. Mum said I should have asked my sis first if it was okay to choose that day, and I could have approached the subject delicately. This was mind-blowing to me because my mother and I have to walk on eggshells with my sister. Over the year, they've discussed how I could have done things differently or why it couldn't have been this day or that day. My wedding is 2 weeks away and my sis and I haven't talked. I didn't send her an invite because she has not apologized and already said she wouldn't be going. I see no reason to have to initiate the convo like always, strengthening the pattern, letting her get her way. It has been heartbreaking to not have my sister there for my activities, and it hurts to know that her pride got in the way of spending time with me. But for once in my life, I want to stand strong and say I deserve better. Edit. Told my mum about this post, and responses. She's unfazed. Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation for me. It's a typical one of those ones, but family, you know how your sister can be, so just let it go. And like you said, you've got your boundaries, you're done with people steamrolling you, and don't let your sister steamroll you in this. It sounds like there could be potential golden child in this as well with your mum, just backing away, letting her get away with whatever she wants. And I'm always interested to know more background information on that, which, we might get in the update, I'm not sure. But not the arsehole at all in this. But someone says not the arsehole, but what is your mum going to do? She clearly favors Stompy's sister. Is she going to ruin your wedding too? He's already doing a good job in the run-up to it. Who are all the people giving you shit? I'll be having thoughts about how involved I want them in my life going forward. Sorry your wedding is being marred like this. Opie says, my mother and I have a sordid relationship. She's not great about respecting my boundaries, but when I spoke to her last week, she did the I'm sorry I'm a terrible mother bit. But Professor Yaffle says not the arsehole should get over it or die mad. It's not like you picked the same date as her wedding anniversary. She's being childish and selfish. Suggest to your mother that if she's unhappy about the current situation, she is free to talk to your sister and suggest to her that she needs to apologize and let things go. You are done with indulging your sister's tantrums, and it's time she grows up and starts to realize the world doesn't revolve around her. Lizzie shares opinion, says, good for you. Keep setting those boundaries and do not move them an inch. If she does show up at the wedding, have her escorted out. Your wedding is about you and your husband. You hear Poppy tapping away in the background. Her having a tattoo after a song title does not change that. Poppy! Having an engagement 15 years ago does not change it either. Stand your ground, OP, and be proud that you are finally not letting her get away with making your life about her. Your mother saying something along the lines of, we all know how she can be. It's a clear indicator of your mother always caving for her antics. If you ever want her antics to stop, you need to stop being the bigger person. It's about time she learns her lesson, and if she refuses to do so, that's on her, not the arsehole. Katie Jim says not the arsehole. 11/11 is a lot of people's thing. My due date is 11/11 of this year, and the number of people who've freaked out positively about how it's so lucky or such a great date or their anniversary, etc. is wild. I'd say at least a third of the time I share the date, I get some reaction about it. And one more comment from Just Tired, who says, not the arsehole and your mum. Wow. If it makes you feel better, my mother scolded me and said that the cut and colour of my bridesmaids' dresses won't do my sister any justice, and that changing the colour would let your sister shine more. Can't make that shit up, lol. Enjoy your day. Feel blessed that your sister isn't there, because it's likely she would have had a whole scene to make it about her. The OP does update their post and says, update. The day before my wedding, Friday the 10th, my mother came over to my house to help me put some last minute things together. She texted my sister when she arrived saying, just got your text, talk to you later. My sister responded with, have fun, lol lol, and followed it up with another text saying, dumb wedding. Coincidentally, my mother was showing me something on her phone when my sister texted that. Sister tried to immediately delete, which is something I guess iPhones can do to each other. I give my mum back her phone at this point. I'm so angry I can't sit. I'm pacing around the house since the dumb wedding message had disappeared. My mother almost didn't believe it happened. She texted my sister and asked if she said that. Sister admitted it. Mother asked why she would say something like that and that I saw it. My sister's response was, welp, then wanted to know how I saw it. My anger has turned into sadness and I started crying. I told my mother that it was bullshit to be treated this way by my sister, who is close to 40. My mother told my sister I was very upset and said to stop acting silly. The entire day I spent in a funk. Years of trauma and abuse make me susceptible to other people's emotions and thoughts and have a hard time snapping out of it. Not just family, but a horribly fucked up first marriage. I'm also trying to rack my brain and figure out genuinely why I deserve this. At one point we were at the venue with my mother-in-law, who asked me what was wrong. My mother interrupted and said I was tired and winked at me. Later I told my mother-in-law the truth. I'm not ashamed or embarrassed, and I'm not going to lie to protect my sister. When my mother and sister spoke later that night, my sister tried to change her story. She said that I took it wrong and she meant expensive weddings are dumb, but that she has no idea how much money I've spent on the wedding or any of the details. And come on, if that's what she meant, she would have clarified it immediately. My mother seemed to sort of believe her bullshit excuse. Wedding day came, never heard from my sister. The wedding was gorgeous and I'm honestly relieved she wasn't there. Extended family came into town and my sister scheduled dinner with them the day before the wedding to make sure she could see them, which annoyed me. It's been over a week and I still haven't heard from her. It further cements my decision to cut things off and not relent, because she knew I was upset and crying about what she said, and she still couldn't reach out to me to set things straight. Sadly, my mother did tell her about some of the details of the wedding. She claimed she didn't send any pictures. I was upset because I clearly told my mum not to give any info about it, but it is what it is. So someone says to OP about the trauma and abuse and are you in therapy, and OP says, I am in therapy, yes. I've been in CBT on and off for almost a decade, but half of that I was with my abuser. And it's one of those ones that, as always, I know it's always very, very easy for me to say, I'm sat here behind a microphone, taking the story in, having time to, read over your life. The question that always pops into my head on stories like this of what are these people bringing to your life? It just sounds like they're bringing pain and drama into your life. And it sounds like the mum will continually keep backing up this 40-year-old sister time and time again. What are they actually bringing you? I don't know. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And for our next story, we're moving over to the Petty Revenge subreddit. A couple people said there's some stories going on over there that you might want to check out. And I came across this one from Carnivorous Echo, who says, "My date got me a gift, so I got him fired from his job." Hi, I'm a 22-year-old female who at the time of this story was just out of a relationship. I started seeing this guy, 24 male, who we will call Frank for the story. We went to a bar and clicked very well. He would then hang out at my place almost 3 times a week, where things were amazing. About a month into our friendship/relationship, we were thinking about getting serious. Frank constantly love-bombed me, messaged me every day about how much he loved me, etc. He then came over one day with a gift for me that was in a unique design glittery gift bag that had crystals, a hoodie, little necklace charms, and baked goods from a store in the mall. We officially started dating and it was great for a week. Frank sent me a long text message saying, "Oh, I love you so much," and how he would love me forever. Going to bed, I thought nothing of it. Just happy someone loved me and expressed it. The next morning, I wake up to another paragraph text, thinking it was another love message. I was wrong. He started off the text with, "I don't love you," and wrote about how he was sleeping with his ex and me at the same time, and that he didn't love her and lied about loving me. I was devastated. Normally, I wouldn't have cared that much, but after being love-bombed for a month by Frank, it stung. Immediately after reading this text, I got suspicious. Some backstory. For the duration of talking to him, he talked horrible about his ex, whom Frank still lived with, saying that she was abusive, trashy, etc. So hearing him say he was sleeping with her stung a lot, but also set off some red flags. I go to work that day upset, but I was getting over it quickly. Until Frank's ex messaged me on Instagram, who we will call Stacy. Stacy told me how he was love-bombing her and begging for her back, and that she wanted to make sure me and him weren't a thing. Out of respect, I told Stacy what he had said to me, considering she was brought up in the text anyways, and I sent her screenshots of every single time he trash-talked her, and I'm talking at least 50 screenshots of paragraphs of him trash-talking her. He was trying to get sympathy from me for him to come over and stay the night. Stacy apologized for his actions and decided to not date him. Eventually, me and her grew to become good friends, and I realized Frank had lied about everything. Stacy was the sweetest, most timid person I've ever met. Now, remember the gift he had given me. I ended up rearranging my room and finding the bag with everything Frank gave me. Looking at the items, something seemed off, so I texted Stacy. I asked her if she happened to be missing anything, any crystals or hoodies. She had a hippie aesthetic, so her owning crystals was a given. Stacy texted me back that she was in fact missing 3 crystals, and she described the ones that Frank had gifted me exactly. The hoodie, also hers. The charms, hers. The only thing he didn't steal from her to gift me were the baked goods from his job. Stacy and Frank both worked at the mall in our city, and I decided to stop by and return everything he had stolen and given to me. He was off that day, but I was told when she got home and he saw the gaudy bag he put everything in, he knew we met up and knew what he did. He apparently started crying and begging for her to forgive him, on his knees, which I found hilarious. Fast forward a week later, Stacy tells me he went back to doing the same thing with other girls. Apparently he had done this 5 other times to different girls, getting into full committed relationships and cheating. Angry, I remembered something Frank had told me about how he would steal baked goods to bring home, and that if his boss had found out, he'd be pissed. So I naturally called the store he worked at, told him everything he was doing at work, along with his cheating and 2-timing, and all the other secrets he told me about that he would do at work that could get him fired. Since then, I never see him at the bakery, and when I ask him, they pretend he never existed. Even my new best friend Stacy said he moved out since he couldn't afford rent. So where he is now is a mystery. Fucking Frank, you tit. And I find it really shitty that Opie had to go through this to begin with, but I am glad that they made a friend out of this. A best friend as it happens, and I think that's pretty awesome. Obviously, I'm not saying it's good that it happened or anything like that at all. I'm super glad that Frank was found out, was called out about it, was sacked from his job for being a total arsehole. But like OP said at the end there, so where is he now? And it always worries me because he's probably out there doing the same thing to someone else, you know. I think people like that rarely change, but what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And I spotted another little story in the Petty Revenge subreddit, a mother-in-law story of all. So I thought, we'll cover that one as well, from Mouseanon16, who says, how I lost weight despite mother-in-law. This happened during Christmas of 2018. My now ex mother-in-law was living with my ex-husband, 44 male, and I, 44 female. I was not particularly fond of mother-in-law. She's lazy, selfish, and entitled, among other things. A couple of weeks before Christmas, she asked me what size jackets I wear. I wore medium to large at the time, so obviously that's what I told her. Fast forward to Christmas morning, I opened my present from her, which was a beautiful black spring-summer jacket from Fairweather in a size small. Keep in mind, when she asked me my jacket size and I told her, she repeated it back to me several times over the days before she purchased it. After opening it and seeing the size, I politely thanked her for it. Meanwhile, I was wondering why she bought that size, and if it was somehow a mistake on her part. The next morning, I got my answer, and she made no mistake. She approached me and said in her rural Newfoundland accent, and then OP typed it in a way that, which I'm assuming is like the accent, I'm not even going to attempt it, but the mother-in-law said, that was the last jacket on the rack. If it don't fit you, I'll have it. So instead of looking for another jacket in my size, she saw one she really liked and happened to be in her size. She bought it for me in her size, hoping that because it didn't fit me, I would just give it to her. I did ask her about using the receipt to return or exchange it, but she accidentally lost it. Instead of calling her out or giving her the jacket, I told her that the size is fine and how much I really liked it, which is true. Now, being perimenopausal and also having a hearty appetite, losing weight is a struggle for me. At the time, I was technically overweight for my height, and losing some weight was in my best interest. But until my mother-in-law pulled that little stunt on me with my Christmas present, I wasn't that motivated to lose the weight. By the next spring, the jacket fitted me perfectly. Mother-in-law was still living with us, and every time she saw me wear it, she would glare or look longingly at me wearing the jacket and say, "Ooh, I love the jacket. I wish I could have gotten one for myself." 5 years later, her son and I are divorced, but still living together. I finally came out in the open about being a lesbian, which is why we split. I still have and wear that jacket, especially when she comes in from around the bay, and she still comments on it. I remember a story we must have covered, I think it was on Entitled People, and it must have been a couple of years ago, where mother-in-law did something very, very similar, that they would buy items for the OP, knowing that OP totally disliked it or wasn't interested in it, and would eventually say, "Oh, I'll have it then if you don't want it," and would conveniently lose receipts, just like in this story. And it always leaves me thinking, do they just not care? Like, what goes through their head? Because it's obvious what the plan is. Especially in the other story that we read, it was so obvious because it was like every single time a gift was bought, it was always like for the mother-in-law and not for themselves, and not for the OPs. I always find mother-in-law stories particularly interesting. I don't know why. What is it about mother-in-laws, man? Anyway, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Maybe you have your own mother-in-law story. Don't forget to let us know if it's got an update as well, extra cheeky, over on r/marknarrations and share it there. If you feel like it, of course, never any pressure to do so. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time, not just towards me, but towards each other down in the comments is always lovely to see. And don't forget, at the very end of the video, there'll be a couple of playlists there for you to click on, and it will automatically scroll through all those videos for you. I've got a little question for you. When you put in your Christmas decorations up, don't forget to share me your pictures of your Christmas trees over at Mark Narrations over on Twitter, or X as they call it these days. And I will see you in the next one. Take care. and much love.